Layla's out, and for the first time ever, I just want a C0. I want to save this pity. I literally just got a back-to-back 5-star, and I do not want Yaimiko cons. But I'm at 0, so I should be fine, right? Right? Oh my god, is this really happening? I am a sad, sad clown, and this is my circus.
It's showtime!
For anyone doubting or curious, yes, I did indeed get Yaimiko that early at 0 pity on my first 10 pull. It was not editing, it was nothing but pure misfortune, although many people would call that extraordinarily good luck because I got so many 5-stars so quickly. I did eventually get my Layla, and I stuck to my guns and I stuck to just C0, mostly because wishing on that kind of bummed me out. But you know, her cons aren't nearly that exciting, so I don't mind. I will wait until she is on a better banner. That brings me to today's video, and that is mistakes you can make in Genshin Impact. One of the most common ones that a lot of people make is building pity. We've pretty much all done it at some point. You think, hey, there's 4 stars I really want on this banner, but I don't particularly want the 5 stars, but I know I want what's coming next, or have a particular character in mind that I want to save for in the future. And on top of that, I know I never win 50-50, so I'm gonna lose a 50-50 on this banner, get the 4 stars I want, and on the next banner, it's all gonna work out great for me. Well, the game and world as a whole has a tendency to kick you in the teeth and tell you, no, f you, I don't care about your plans, you're going to get screwed over. There are many times where building pity works out for people. They get what they want and it's fantastic, but when it backfires, oh god, it is horrible. If you're a whale, it's going to cost you a bunch of extra money, and if you're a free-to-play, it could cost you a character that you want and cause you to have to wait for a whole nother rerun, which for some characters can be a long-ass time. 4 stars will always come back. Sadly, sometimes it can take a long time, especially with the pool growing bigger and bigger. We've had some characters disappear off banner like Razor for upwards of like 12 banners, I think. No matter what kind of player you are, whale, free-to-play, small spender, it doesn't matter. Building pity is an incredible risk. So you need to decide if you're okay with taking that risk. Again, the 4 stars will be back, and sometimes they may be on even better banners. When I wished on the Ito banner for Kuki, I was only getting cons that I didn't care about. I already had Ito C2, and I didn't really care about anything between C2 and C6. But I wished on it for Kuki because I wanted the 4-star cons, even if they didn't actually look that good. But later on, Kuki ended up being put on Sino's banner, a character I actually wanted to wish for up to his C2, which I would have gotten more than enough Kuki, and I did. But I wasted my money and time rolling on Ito's banner just to get him sooner. Next up is one that doesn't actually affect a lot of players anymore because most of us are well beyond this point, but if you're a newer player or a more casual player or even a returning player, spending your fragile resins on artifact domains before you hit AR45, or in the case that you're doing lower world level stuff, doing lower than AR45 artifact domains. The reason for this is that the moment you hit AR45, the drop rate for 5-star artifacts is nearly tripled. It goes from roughly a 38% drop chance for a 5-star artifact prior to AR45 all the way up to a guaranteed 5-star artifact for every 20 resin you spend, with a 7% chance to get a second. Now back in the day, this was contentious because a lot of people were misunderstanding the advice. They were thinking they were being told to not spend resin at all on artifact domains before 45 when people were just saying don't spend your fragile resins. And if you are a newer player, this advice is still something you should follow. In general, I personally think the best way to spend your fragile resins is when new characters release with either new bosses that need their ascension materials and you want them literally day one, although that's arguable because that's really just you being impatient and not wanting to wait a couple days. Other than that, the best time is to spend it when a new artifact domain comes out with a new character you want. Not every character can be as lucky as Ito was, where he was released a patch, not a patch, but a banner after the Husk domain was released. So we had a lot of time to farm artifacts for him without having to worry about getting them day one. Ultimately, it is entirely up to you when and how you spend them. As long as you're comfortable with how you're doing it, it doesn't matter. You could spend them before AR45 if you want, but if you're looking to be the most efficient and get the most bang for your buck, that's how you should do it. And if you really want to be ridiculous with it, you can save your fragile resin for something that you can't even fathom or think about yet, like a whole new thing to spend artifact or resin on that's not artifacts. Now on to the next mistake, which I think is one that is committed on the daily by tons of people, and that is throwing away what could be good artifacts. There are many people who just have absolutely warped standards, whether it be because of Reddit or other social medias or people just giving them bad advice. I see it all the time, people asking, is this artifact good? And there's always somebody who says, no, it's not that good, or like, I guess it's okay. It's that kind of mentality that can really warp people's standards. They start to think, well, do I just think everything is good? And there's also people who think that everything is good and they upgrade total trash. Naturally, what you consider to be a good artifact is going to go up over time. The better your overall pool is, the better artifacts you should be looking for. But when you're starting at basically nothing, you absolutely should not be throwing away artifacts that someone who's been playing for 2 years would consider bad. Ultimately, it's going to vary from player to player. The better you are as a player, the better teams you use. Both of these things heavily affect how good your artifacts need to be. If your two Abyss teams are Physical Kaya and Yanfei DPS, then you're going to need a lot better artifacts than somebody who's running Bryden National and like Ayaka Freeze team. Oftentimes when people want really overgeared characters and insane artifacts, they want to just have really comfortable runs. That means ignoring the Abyss Blessing, ignoring what monsters are on what floors for the most part, and just putting whatever teams wherever you want. You can clear most Abysses with just decent artifacts. It's an incredibly low risk to level an artifact that starts with 3 stats and maybe only 2 of those 3 stats are actually good. Level it up, see if the 4th one is also a good stat, and then you have something to work with. Some of my best artifacts are artifacts that ended up this way, or ones that start with 4 stats but only 2 of them are good, and I take the risk to see if it ends up good. Level it to 4, 8, 12, see how it is, and then if it's bad, you use it as fodder and you only take a small loss. Sometimes it can even end up being a gain if you feed that level 12 artifact into a 0 and it gets a ×2 or ×5 bonus. On the topic of artifacts, don't forget to use the artifact Strongbox, and please stop throwing 5-star artifacts into other artifacts as artifact EXP unless it is partially leveled already. Whether you like it or not, unless you're just never spending your resin, you're going to get artifact fodder over time. It comes from the Abyss as a reward. You get it from bosses, you get it from weekly bosses, you get it from artifact domains themselves. Even exploration, all the chests you open are going to give you artifact fodder. And if you really want to go the extra mile, you can do daily investigation routes that gives you a ton of artifact EXP. It may not be a lot in the grand scheme of things, but it's a daily thing you can do for free without spending resin. All those 5-star artifacts that you throw into others as EXP could have been a whole brand new artifact that could be good. Even when there were limited sets, this was still an incredibly useful tool to use. Now that we have more sets, it's even less of an excuse not to do it. Even if the sets were total garbage and just not redeemable as set bonuses, you can still get off pieces from it. Some of my best off-piece goblets came from the Strongbox, as well as some of my crit hats, or in some cases, hourglasses. Just don't let the overall cynicism the community has about artifact farming get you down and make you not use this tool, because it's one of the things that's going to help you actually get good artifacts. Now here's one that I know that many people, at least at some point, were probably guilty of, and that's building characters in the wrong order. I have seen a staggering amount of people post pictures of their characters, sometimes even DPS, that are level 90 with crown talents, and sometimes even a level 80 or level 70 weapon equipped. As a general rule of thumb for most attack scalers, your weapon to level 90 is one of the most important things you can possibly get. That should be almost as important as getting your character to level 60 out of 70 and then getting relevant talents to around level 6. After that, depending on the kind of character it is, you may want to consider them getting to level 90 next and getting their talents to at least about level 8 or 9. And outside of just tunnel visioning on a single character, you may not just want to plow all your resources into your main DPS. In some cases, supports like Xiangling or Yelan, they could do almost as much DPS as the character that's actually on the field, and in some cases, even more. So leveling them may be even more important than what you consider to be your main DPS. If you're just starting out, it's really not a good idea to put everything into one character and then have your other characters be like level 30 or 40 or something. There's always exceptions to all of these rules. Some characters don't need their talents upgraded. For example, if you're using a Swirl Venti, you can actually leave him at level 111 talents, and it's really not that big of a loss. You can also leave a Diluc at level 80 forever and have it not be that impactful, but if you're using Aggravate Kaching, for example, getting her to level 90 is actually a considerable DPS increase. There are even weapons like Thrilling Tales of the Dragon Slayers where you could leave it under leveled and have it not be that impactful on your overall team. You might put it on Kokomi and you might want that extra % HP for more healing, but truthfully, she actually heals quite a bit if you're building her for healing, and it's really, in most cases, going to be overkill. Point being that there are lots of exceptions to this. There's no hard and fast rule that works for every single character. Everyone is unique, and you may be able to save a lot of resources by learning them. Now for a lightning round of small mistakes. Letting your resin cap. Completely ignoring the teapot. There are some really useful things in that shop. Forgetting to use the parametric transformer. Building Chi-Chi. Editing this video with Zhongli on the field and my game audio not muted. Never mining or using your expeditions to get ore. Using resin to get mystic enhancement ore because you don't do that. Not being subscribed to my channel. Spending primo gems on the standard banner. I get it, you're 5 away from hard pity, but you know what? Just wait till the month ticks over. There ain't no way on God's green earth that even one person watching this hasn't done at least one of these things once. Building pity has burned most of us at least once at some point. We all think it's gonna work out for us, and it just doesn't. Sometimes it does, and that makes us try the next time, and it's just an infinite cycle. But what about those of you watching? Have you made any of these mistakes? Do you still make a lot of them today? Because it's honestly completely fine. Most of these are just hindering your progress and slowing you down, and as long as you're comfortable with the pace you're going at, that's totally fine. Except building pity. Don't do that. It's a mistake. Learn from my mistakes. You've probably heard it a ton of times, but just don't do it. It's not worth it. What is worth it is supporting me on my Patreon, because it helps a lot. Having reliable income on YouTube is a godsend. But thank you to literally anyone who watches, likes, subscribes. It doesn't matter. It's all supporting me, so have a good day, and I will see you in the next one.
Attaboy!